Ming sat with Momo at the table, the romantic dinner set up perfectly in front of them. Momo looked at him, a bright, shining smile on her face, telling him that his cooking was very good and that she didn't know he could be this romantic. Ming, cheeks flushing, whispered shyly that it meant she didn't know him that well. Secretly, beneath the table, his hand reached for his notepad, scanning the notes that Liwei had taught him, his eyes tracing the words carefully, absorbing every instruction. He glanced up at Momo, and slowly, purposefully, he stood. He walked toward her, his movements calm, measured, deliberate, before bending slightly to pull her gently from her seat. She looked at him, eyes wide, heart beating faster, and before she could speak, he placed a delicate necklace around her neck. His eyes met hers as he told her that this was his first precious gift to her, as her boyfriend, and that it was heart-shaped so that she would always remember that she held his heart and he hers. Momo's cheeks flushed deeply. Her fingers brushed the necklace, tracing the contours of the delicate pendant. She murmured that it was beautiful, that she loved it, and Ming drew her into a gentle embrace, secretly glancing at his notepad again before letting his gaze return fully to her. His hand reached for a strawberry on the table, dipping it carefully into the cream before feeding it to her, eyes locked with hers, holding her gaze exactly as Liwei had instructed. Momo's cheeks burned, and slowly, instinctively, she leaned in and kissed him softly. The kiss deepened, and without hesitation, Ming lifted her effortlessly, carrying her to the room and laying her gently on the bed. Momo's heart pounded violently as she watched this side of him, a side she had never seen before. Ming leaned close, whispering in her ear that he would make her first time special, that he would be as gentle as possible. Momo's body weakened, trembling under the weight of his words and presence. As Ming removed his jacket, the notepad fell onto the bed. Momo's hand shot out, grabbing it immediately, her eyes scanning the pages. Notes, instructions, carefully written steps from Liwei himself, and in that moment, her expression shifted. She sat up sharply, visibly angry, feeling a mix of betrayal and frustration at what she had just discovered. Meanwhile, Liwei walked slowly toward the dinner table, the dim lighting reflecting off the polished surface of the tableware. He took his seat, his gaze immediately finding Sunny. He asked what she was doing there, his voice calm but measured. His grandfather interjected, explaining that she had come to visit, and when she noticed he was attending dinner, she had asked to join. It was him who had allowed it. Liwei did not respond, only muttered a polite apology for being late. His grandfather waved it off, and they began to eat, the soft clinking of cutlery filling the air. Sunny could not keep her eyes off Liwei. She drank in every detail, every angle of him, the sculpted line of his jaw, the curve of his lips, his strong, manly hands, the way his posture carried authority and elegance. Liwei, though his head was angled toward his plate, felt the weight of her gaze and ignored it, maintaining his composure. The silence was broken by his grandfather, who asked if he had been getting to know Sunny. Liwei's eyes flicked briefly to his grandfather, as he said they had only met briefly, by coincidence, and hadn't talked much. His grandfather continued, insisting he spend more time with her, praising her character. Liwei remained silent, glancing at the glass of wine by his grandfather, standing to pour it himself. His grandfather protested, saying waiters were there to serve, but Liwei ignored him, standing resolutely, pouring carefully. Sunny noticed the subtle tension in his movements and quickly engaged his grandfather in conversation, keeping him distracted. Liwei moved deftly, slipping a small pill into the wine before returning to his seat. Sunny caught his eye, giving him a subtle nod, silently acknowledging the act as they both watched his grandfather lift the glass to his lips. Moments later, Liwei's grandfather's eyes fluttered open, his head pounding as he tried to orient himself. Confusion and fear etched across his face. He realized he was in a cage, shrouded in darkness. His mind raced to make sense of the situation, his pulse accelerating with panic. And then, as his gaze lifted, he saw Liwei standing before him, tall, imposing, his eyes dark and unrelenting, radiating control, power, and the cold fury of a man who had finally seized command. Liwei stood there, his gaze dark and unyielding as he looked at his grandfather trapped in the cage. His grandfather gathered his composure, letting out a small, sharp laugh as he shook his head. Leaning forward slightly, he stated that he was stupid for letting his guard down with him, that he still knew Liwei was a cunning and manipulative bastard, and yet he had overlooked that, thinking perhaps he had tamed him while Liwei had been plotting behind his back all this time. Liwei moved closer, every step measured, his eyes locked on his grandfather. He leaned in, his voice calm but icy, and told him that no one could ever think they could tame him, except for his woman. He added that his grandfather might have been foolish if he thought he could yield and surrender to something that had caused him trauma, that had stolen his family from him. His grandfather looked at him, still composed, the corners of his mouth twitching as he stated that Master Shen had taught him well. He explained that he had used the same method he had used on his uncle on him, pretend to be yielding while secretly plotting. He continued telling him that he had been aware of Liwei's cunning, that he knew he could play people like a chessboard, yet somehow he hadn't seen it coming. He laughed again, this time a little softer, telling him that the only thing he hadn't anticipated this time was that it was different. He explained that he had his guards tracking him, watching every move, and they wouldn't allow him to disappear for even an hour before they started panicking. They would come for him. His expression darkened, leaning in closer, warning that when that happened, he would make sure Liwei joined his father, for he had failed just like him. Liwei's gaze sharpened, icy cold, and he finally spoke, each word deliberate and cutting. He stated that nobody was coming for him. From the moment he met his grandfather, he had been plotting, and he was crazy if he thought he would leave any loopholes. He added that soon he would send him straight to hell, and if he had to drag him there himself, he would walk into hell with him, making sure his grandfather would be there too. Liwei walked over, collected photographs of his father, mother, and sister, and placed them carefully before his grandfather. He told him that for the meantime, he would remain in the cage, facing the people whose lives he had cut short. He added that when he returned, he wouldn't be back to talk. He would be back to claim his wretched soul that had caused him so much suffering. With that, Liwei turned to leave. His grandfather shouted after him, demanding that he come back and release him from the cage, warning that he would pay dearly for what he had done. Liwei ignored him entirely, stepping into the shadows outside. Meanwhile, in the quiet garden, Momo sat alone, shoulders slumped, visibly upset after what had just occurred between her and Ming. The night air brushed against her face, carrying the faint scent of flowers, but she barely noticed. Ming emerged from the house, his steps hesitant, almost faltering, as he approached her. Slowly, he draped a shawl over her shoulders, explaining that it was windy and she might catch a cold. He settled beside her, handing her a cup of warm water, stating that he had added honey and that it was good for her gut. Momo glanced at the cup, still upset, her lips pressed into a thin line, looking away. Ming inched closer, his voice soft, apologizing. He explained that he had only wanted to make things special for her, and that since Liwei had more experience, he had sought advice from him. He admitted quietly that although he was a man, it was also his first time, and he feared he might disappoint her. Taking her hand gently, he apologized once more, the warmth of his touch lingering. Momo's gaze met his. She told him firmly, yet softly, that he didn't need to change who he was or think he had to act differently. She explained that she had fallen for him for who he truly was. She added that Liwei acted according to his nature, and he should do the same. Act according to who he was. Ming's eyes softened, never leaving hers, and he told her that from now on, he would do things his own way. Shyly, he asked if that meant he was forgiven. Momo nodded, a small, quiet nod, her lips twitching in the faintest smile. She stood, straddling his lap, guiding his arms around her. Ming's cheeks flushed, unable to contain his smile as he gazed down at her. He leaned slightly closer, telling her she needed to promise him one thing. Momo's eyes searched his, waiting for him to speak. Ming told her that she needed to study hard, reminding her that her marks were very low, and he worried she might not graduate. He added that even if her goal was to be a housewife, her education was still important. She could have a degree and still choose her path. Momo's lips curled into a mischievous smile. She told him she could only promise under one condition. Ming urged her to speak. She leaned in slightly, voice dropping, and told him that if he promised, she would be his stay-at-home wife. Ming's gaze softened, lingering on her before he asked why she wanted that so badly. Momo's voice dropped further, confessing that it was something she had always wanted. She asked again if he promised, and Ming nodded, letting out a soft, warm laugh. He told her that he would make her his housewife and let her spend his money. Momo blushed, resting her head on his chest, promising to study hard as well. Ming pressed a soft kiss to her forehead, and they remained entwined beneath the starry night sky, hearts beating in quiet sync, the garden wrapped around them like a gentle embrace. Meanwhile, Liwei made his way back to the hotel. The lobby was quiet, but Sunny had been waiting, her eyes fixed on him the moment he stepped through the doors. As soon as she saw him, she rushed forward, a bright, confident smile lighting up her face. She stood directly in front of him and told him that she had known he would come back for her. Moving a little closer, she asked how things had gone with his grandfather. Liwei's gaze remained locked on her, steady and unreadable. He told her firmly that she should not involve herself in matters she had no knowledge of, that she should not ask questions about things she did not understand. Sunny nodded quickly, her trust unwavering. She assured him that she wouldn't ask questions, that she knew whatever he did was justified. Liwei didn't respond, his expression blank. He turned to walk past her, but she stopped him again, stepping into his path. She asked if he wanted to continue their dinner, reminding him that they had barely eaten, and admitted that she was hungry. His face remained unreadable. He told her coldly and straightforwardly that she could eat alone if she was hungry, that he was fine, and began to move away. But Sunny was relentless. She blocked his path again, telling him she didn't drive and asking if he would mind taking her home. Liwei's eyes didn't waver. He answered simply, still unfazed. He wouldn't be going home. He was spending the night at the hotel. If she wanted to go home, she could call an Uber. With that, he stepped around her and walked off, leaving her standing there, frustration tugging at her chest. Sunny's eyes followed him as he disappeared down the hallway. Determined, she hurried to the reception desk, leaning in close to the receptionist. She pointed toward Liwei and asked if she knew what room he was in. The receptionist smiled politely and explained that the hotel was not allowed to disclose guest information. Sunny's voice didn't falter. She told the receptionist that Liwei had forgotten something important, something she needed to return to him. The receptionist suggested leaving it at the front desk so they could call him. Sunny's eyes narrowed slightly, disappointed at the obstacle. Thinking quickly, she grabbed a piece of paper and scribbled an amount of money. She held it out, explaining that this was what she would give if the receptionist told her Liwei's room number. The receptionist hesitated, her eyes scanning Sunny from head to toe. Sunny, confident, added that she might not look the part, but she had the money. Without hesitation, she wrote a second amount, doubling it, and held it up again. The receptionist's eyes flickered, then she nodded. She clicked on the computer, instructing Sunny to make the payment before revealing the room number. Sunny took out her phone and completed the transaction online. The receptionist gave her the room number. Sunny's lips curved into a triumphant smile as she instructed her to book a room close to his. She turned and walked away, muttering to herself that she would not give up, that soon Liwei would realize how incredible she was and would give in. Meanwhile, Liwei entered Amara's hotel suite. The room was quiet, empty of the usual nighttime stillness he had expected. A faint sizzling sound drew his attention toward the kitchen. He paused at the doorway, his eyes scanning the space, and saw her. Amara stood at the stove, dressed only in a loose t-shirt, nothing beneath it. The sight made his breath catch. Every subtle movement, the way she pushed her hair back, the way she concentrated on her cooking, drew him in, each motion igniting a hunger deep inside him. He drank her in silently, biting his lips, swallowing hard, relishing the sight of her in her natural state, unaware of his presence. His thoughts sharpened, clear and consuming. This woman, this fiery, breathtaking woman, would soon be his wife, the one he would spend his life with. He stepped closer, careful, deliberate. Each step was light, soundless, almost invisible, until he reached her. Without warning, his hand landed on her behind, a gentle spank that startled her. She spun around instinctively, eyes wide. Seeing him, she instinctively tried to move, to cover herself, to wear something, but he held her, his hands firm yet gentle. He reassured her that it was fine, that she could stay just like that. He told her that he loved it. Amara slowly lifted her eyes to his. He didn't need to speak. The intensity in his gaze said everything. The look radiated something she had felt countless times before, that electrifying spark that ran through her, freezing her blood, igniting every nerve. He wanted her, and he wanted her now.